and packed wall to wall with family. Kids ran across the living room in fuzzy socks, tearing through wrapping paper while adults held up phones to capture every moment. Every child had a gift in their lap, except mine. Ellie stood by the tree, 6 years old, in her red velvet dress with a little candy cane headband she'd picked out herself. She looked at me, confused, then hopeful. Then the smile faded. My mother clapped her hands and said, "That's everyone." I paused. "Mom, you forgot Ellie's." She blinked. "Oh," she said, glancing at the pile, then laughed. "Oops, we forgot her." The laughter that followed wasn't loud, but it cut sharper than any scream. A few of the adults chuckled awkwardly, not sure whether to join in or shrink back. My sister smirked. My brother looked away. Ellie's bottom lip began to tremble. She clutched the edge of her dress and whispered, "Did Santa forget me too?" That did it. Something in me settled, hardened. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. I simply knelt beside her, brushed her curls back, and said gently, "No, baby. Santa didn't forget. He just sent your gift through me instead." I reached into my purse, pulled out a small box wrapped in silver paper and tied with a satin ribbon. Ellie's eyes lit up. Everyone in the room turned. Some of them squinted, curious. Others leaned in like they were watching something they couldn't rewind. Ellie untied the ribbon slowly, peeled back the paper. Inside was a black velvet box. She opened it and gasped. A delicate gold necklace with a heart-shaped locket sparkled inside. She looked up at me. "Can I open it?" I nodded. She pressed the clasp and the locket popped open. On one side, a photo of us, just me and Ellie, nose to nose, laughing under the park gazebo from last spring. On the other, a tiny inscription in soft cursive. "You are loved beyond measure, Mommy." The room fell absolutely silent. No one laughed. No one moved. I kissed her cheek and said clearly, louder than I needed to, just loud enough to echo, "Real love never forgets." Ellie smiled through her tears and whispered, "I love it, Mommy. It's my favorite." And in that moment, while they all sat frozen with nothing to say, I smiled too. My name is Vanessa Carter, and from wherever you're watching this video, stay with me. Because when they tried to humiliate my daughter at Christmas, I didn't clap back. I let the silence speak for us. I was never the favorite. Not the loud one. Not the funny one. Not the golden child. That was always my sister, Marla. And when she didn't shine, my brother David did. Me? I was the one who cleaned up after the party. The one who offered to help with dishes. The one they said was too sensitive whenever I brought up how often I was left out. Growing up, my mom always made excuses. Marla got the newest clothes. I got her hand-me-downs. She had a sweet 16 with a DJ and a cake taller than me. Mine was a potluck in the backyard, and I made my own cake. When I got pregnant with Ellie at 21, the silence was louder than any scream. No celebration. No congratulations. No baby shower. My mom said, "Well, you made your bed." I remember sitting in the hospital alone, holding Ellie for the first time, wondering if being a mother would feel less lonely than being a daughter. It did, and it didn't. I raised Ellie without their help. No babysitting offers. No, "Can I bring you groceries?" Not even a birthday card in her first year. The only time they started paying attention again was when Ellie turned 5 and I brought her to Thanksgiving. Everyone said the same thing. "Wow, she looks just like you did." And I remember thinking, so maybe now she'll be invisible too. Still, I kept going to the family events. Why? Because I thought showing up meant maybe they'd come around. Maybe they'd see me. Maybe they'd see her. But every party, every get-together, it was the same thing. Ellie was so cute, but somehow always left out of the group games. She was sweet, but never on the cousin's sleepover invite list. And last Christmas, they handed out gifts to all the grandkids, except her. They said the delivery was delayed. They said it was a shipping error. But this year, there was no delay, no excuse. Just laughter when my daughter stood alone under the tree. Oh, we forgot her. And that was when the pattern finally snapped into place. It wasn't forgetfulness. It was intentional, calculated. She was my daughter. And just like they treated me, they had decided she was disposable too. But I wasn't that same silent daughter anymore. And she wouldn't be raised in my shadow. So I smiled and pulled out the gift I had bought weeks ago. A gift I saved for exactly this moment. Because if they were going to show her how small she was to them, then I was going to show her how big she was to me. Looking back, the signs were there. They didn't forget Ellie. They never wanted her included to begin with. 3 weeks before the party, the family group chat was full of planning. Potluck assignments, pajama sizes, gift themes. But no one asked for Ellie's size. No one even tagged me in the message. When I messaged privately, "Hey, just checking, should Ellie and I bring anything?" My mom replied with a thumbs up emoji. No words, just that cold little icon. I offered to help with desserts. She said it was covered. I suggested we do something special for the kids this year, maybe a photo booth or crafts. She said, "Don't complicate it, Vanessa. It's already enough." Then, the week of the party, I saw my sister's Instagram post. 9 Christmas gift bags lined up with tags for the grandbabies. 9. There were 10 grandkids in the family. Ellie made 10. I stared at the photo, zoomed in. No tag with her name. I showed it to a friend. She said, "Maybe it's a mistake?" But mistakes don't happen this often. Not to the same people. Not to the same child. On the day of the party, Ellie and I arrived to find everyone else in matching green plaid pajamas, something they apparently organized weeks ago. The kids posed for a group photo. Ellie stood off to the side, unsure whether to jump in. I nudged her gently, but my mom said, "Let's just do one with the matching ones first, okay?" I felt Ellie's little hand tighten around mine. She didn't say anything. She never does. She's quiet, like I used to be. Watches everything. Says little. But I know when she's hurt. And that photo, that exclusion, cut her deeper than she could explain. Still, she smiled when they offered her a gingerbread cookie. Still said, "Thank you," when her aunt handed her a paper crown. She tried. She always tries. But I could see it in her eyes. That slow realization. That awareness that somehow, even in a room full of people who share her blood, she was outside of something. And I knew, standing there with that same ache in my chest I had carried for years, I couldn't let her grow up thinking this was normal. Thinking love had tears. Thinking she had to earn basic kindness. That's when I reached into my purse. Felt the smooth shape of the small wrapped box. The one I had brought just in case. Not because I was expecting the worst, but because I remembered the worst. And I refused to let history repeat itself with my daughter. So when the last gift was handed out, and everyone clapped and laughed and hugged their children, and Ellie looked around, blinking back tears, and my mom said through laughter, "Oops, we forgot her." I smiled, not out of anger, but clarity, because I hadn't come for their gifts. I had come prepared to give my daughter something better. Proof that someone thought of her, planned for her, loved her first. The moment I saw last year's party unravel, Ellie clapping politely while the other kids opened gifts with wide eyes and glittering bows, I made myself a promise. Never again. Not another Christmas of sitting quietly. Not another moment of pretending forgotten and uninvited were just accidents. Not when the child they were doing it to was mine. So I started planning early. I saved money quietly over months. Skipped takeout, packed lunches, sold a few old dresses online. And one morning in October, I walked into a tiny jeweler shop tucked between a bookstore and a coffee shop. The kind of place with velvet trays and quiet lighting. I asked the woman behind the counter, "Do you have lockets?" She showed me a few, but one stopped me cold. A delicate gold heart with the tiniest clasp and just enough space inside for a memory. I picked it up and whispered, "This one." 2 days later, I returned with a photo, Ellie and I at the park that spring. Her on my shoulders, our faces tilted toward the sky, caught mid-laughter. The jeweler smiled when she saw it. You want this inside? Yes, I said. And something engraved. She nodded. What do you want it to say? I paused, thought of every birthday no one showed up for, every group photo she was left out of. Then said, You are loved beyond measure, Mommy. It took a week to make. When I picked it up, I didn't cry, but I held it in my hand like it was made of glass. Not because of the money, but because of what it meant. I wrapped it in silver paper, tied it with satin ribbon, and tucked it gently into the inside pocket of my purse, right next to my phone and house keys. Not because I knew they'd forget her again, but because I couldn't risk them doing it twice. I told myself maybe they'd changed. Maybe this time would be different. But in my heart, I knew. People who forget you when it's easy don't remember you when it counts. So when Ellie stood by that Christmas tree, lip trembling, empty-handed while the other kids tore open presents and her name was never called, I didn't panic. I didn't flinch. I reached into my purse, felt the soft edges of the box I'd wrapped just for her, and remembered the girl I used to be, who waited her whole life for someone to show up and never did. Then I knelt beside my daughter, and I showed up. Ellie's tiny hands twisted the hem of her dress as she looked around the room. Her cousins squealed over tablets and dolls. Wrapping paper flew through the air like snowflakes, and she just stood there, still, forgotten. I could feel it building in her chest, the heartbreak, the kind of silent shame a child can't name yet, but knows how to carry, the kind I carried for most of my life. My mother laughed like it was a sitcom. Oh, we forgot her. She actually clapped, like it was just another silly accident. Ellie turned to me, eyes welling. Mommy, did I do something wrong? That was it. I reached into my purse, knelt to her eye level, and said softly, No, baby. You did everything right. I pulled out the small silver-wrapped box. She blinked, surprised. For me? I nodded. From someone who never forgets you. The room started to quiet. One by one, the aunts, uncles, and cousins turned. Phones stopped clicking. No more paper tearing. Just silence. Ellie carefully peeled the ribbon, lifted the lid. Inside, the velvet box caught the light. She opened it and gasped. The gold locket gleamed. Her little fingers ran over the delicate heart, then paused. Can I open it? Go ahead, I whispered. She clicked it open, and there we were, frozen in laughter, our joy captured in that photo beneath the gazebo. On the other side, she read the inscription aloud, lips forming each word slowly. You are loved beyond measure, Mommy. She looked up at me, eyes glassy. You made this for me? I nodded, because you'll never have to wonder if you matter. Her smile was soft and stunned and small, but it reached the deepest part of me. Then she turned slowly to the room, clutched the necklace to her chest, and said, to no one in particular, This is my favorite gift. No one spoke. My sister looked down at her wine glass. My brother cleared his throat. Even my mother, so loud just moments ago, just stood there, jaw slightly open. She knew. They all knew. And I didn't have to say anything else. Not one word. Because sometimes silence says, You saw what you did. You knew what you were doing. And I won't beg you to explain it. I stood, lifted Ellie into my arms, and walked to the couch. She asked if I could put the necklace on her. I fastened the chain and kissed her cheek. She leaned into me, warm and safe. And as I looked across the room, at a family that once made me feel small, I didn't feel small anymore. I felt like a mother, a protector, a woman who had finally stopped waiting for love to come from people who forgot her too easily. By the time dessert was served, the air had shifted. You could taste the awkwardness in the peppermint bark. No one said anything directly, of course, but no one looked me in the eye either. The cousins who were once bouncing off the walls sat still, casting glances at Ellie's locket like it was a crown. My sister scrolled on her phone nonstop. My mom? She poured herself another glass of wine and started fussing with the candles like they were the problem. After the party, I got the first text before I even made it home. Aunt Monica. Just wanted to say, I saw what happened. That was wrong. Ellie is a sweetheart. The next day, my cousin Ray. If you ever want to do a separate kids gift exchange next year, count me in. Then the real silence came. Not the quiet kind, the frosted kind. I wasn't removed from the family group chat, but suddenly I wasn't in it either. No replies to my thanks for hosting. No photos of Ellie in the party recap collage. Just radio silence. I didn't reach out, didn't follow up, didn't explain, because there was nothing to explain. They didn't forget her. They excluded her. They tested whether I'd stay silent, and I didn't. And now, the weight of that made them uncomfortable. A week later, my sister posted a vague tweet. Some people will ruin a whole holiday just to be the center of attention. No names. Didn't need them. It got one like from my mom. I didn't respond because I was too busy helping Ellie write thank you cards to the people who had thought of her, like my coworker who gave her a puzzle book and our elderly neighbor who baked us a cinnamon loaf just because. People who didn't share our blood, but somehow had bigger hearts. That weekend, Ellie looked up at me while drawing a snowflake. She said, "Mommy, I like our Christmas better." I blinked. "You mean ours at home?" She nodded. "It's warmer, even when it's cold outside." And just like that, the frost from the family I was raised in didn't matter. Because the warmth we were building together, the one they always kept for me, now lived inside my daughter. And no silence, no cold room, no forgotten gift could touch that. The next year, we didn't go to my mom's party. No explanation. No RSVP. Just nothing. I didn't announce it. Didn't cause a scene. I simply chose us. Ellie and I started a new tradition. On Christmas Eve, we made cocoa with marshmallows that looked like tiny bears. She picked matching pajamas for both of us, blue flannel with little gold stars. We danced around the kitchen while baking gingerbread cookies in weird shapes because she couldn't care less about perfect edges. And that night, before bed, I gave her one gift. Not something fancy, just something thoughtful. A small storybook, handmade by a local artist. Inside, the story of a little girl who had been overlooked by a kingdom until she built her own. Ellie hugged me so tight, I could barely breathe. The next morning, we slept in. No pressure. No being dressed up to be judged. No explaining why she didn't get the big gift that others did. We built our own holiday. One that didn't hinge on whether others remembered her. Or remembered me. Word got around, of course. When we didn't show up to the party, I got a passive-aggressive text from my mom. "Didn't expect you to hold a grudge through Christmas. That's not how family works." I didn't reply. Because, yes, that's exactly how family works when the only one hurting is the one who stayed quiet. Instead, I focused on something bigger. That January, I launched a small fundraiser. I called it No Forgotten Kids, a toy drive for children who often get overlooked, nieces, nephews, foster kids, neighborhood kids who don't get the big name on the gift tag. I used my design skills to make flyers, posted in local groups, asked friends and coworkers to share. By the second week, our living room was full of wrapped gifts. By Christmas the following year, we had served over 70 children. People asked why I started it. I never named names, just said, because every child deserves to feel remembered. Ellie became our chief helper. She drew cards for each bag, added glitter to wrapping paper, wrote little notes like, "This one's for someone who might think no one sees them. We see you." One day she turned to me and said, "Mommy, are we someone Santa?" I smiled. "No, baby. We're something better. We're proof that love doesn't forget." And that was the holiday we gave ourselves. No cold dining rooms. No fake apologies. No more waiting at the edge of someone else's joy. We created our own table and filled every seat with warmth. The next Christmas came quietly. No knock on the door. No surprise card. Just a text. "Mom, you should bring Ellie by this year. Family should stick together." It sat there on my screen like a trapdoor. Not an apology, not accountability, just a summons. The same people who laughed when my daughter was left out, who acted like her absence from a gift pile was a joke, now wanted us to come back, to sit in that room again, to pretend nothing happened. I didn't reply, not out of spite, but because I had nothing left to explain. Instead, I turned back to the kitchen. Ellie and I were elbow deep in sugar cookie dough. There was flour on her nose and 3 colors of frosting smeared across her cheeks. We wore new pajamas that year, white and gold. Stars. Because she said they felt like magic. We just finished wrapping our last gift bag for the No Forgotten Kids toy drive. 72 this time. A new record. After dinner, I snapped a picture of us in front of the tree. No filters. Just her sitting in my lap, both of us laughing at something ridiculous. I posted it with the caption, "Our favorite season piece." No hashtags. No digs. No need. I got a few messages from old friends and coworkers. Your smile says it all. Your daughter is glowing. That locket moment last year still lives rent-free in my heart. But the most surprising one came from my cousin Erica. We hadn't spoken in years. She wrote, "I saw what happened that day. I'm sorry I didn't speak up. You taught me what showing up for your child really means. Thank you." I stared at that message for a long time, because that's what this journey had really been about. Not punishing them, not winning, but showing my daughter that love isn't something you chase. It's something you protect. And sometimes protecting it means walking away from people who drop it too easily. They sent an invitation. I never opened it, because the only one that mattered was the one I sent to my daughter. Every single day. You are enough. You are seen. And you will never be forgotten. Not